Welcome to the Pop Goes the Culture podcast for the weekend of Friday, January the 3rd. My name is Joey Mills, and joining me on the show today, I've got...
At the start of the year, we've got Zack Wilson. So great to be back, Joey.
All right. When I say, let's do sound checks, and you're like, test, 1, 2, 1, 2, check, 1, 2. All right, now do it like you're going to talk in the podcast. Test, 1, 2, 1, 2. Hey, Zack, how you been? Hey, everybody!
Hey, everybody! I'm just so gosh darn excited, Joey.
Are you now?
2025. We actually made it.
You're excited for podcasting, but not for sound checking. That's all right. I got to give you a hard time anyway. Well, we are going to try some new things this year. You'll always get your audio podcast, but we are also playing around with recording video as we record audio. So check out our YouTube channel. If you don't see this week's episode up there, it's because it didn't work. We are still pushing buttons and connecting cables, and we'll see what happens. In the meantime, it's a brand new era for the Pop Goes the Culture podcast. It's the two of us.
Just the two of us. We can make it if we try. It's a new... Listen, though, Joe, it is a new era for Pop Goes the Culture.
It
I
is.
mean, as somebody who started this from the ground up, I mean, throughout the years, how have you thought it's evolved?
It was evolving and going really well, and then COVID hit, and we couldn't get together to record.
Much like the brick wall behind us.
Yes. So it was a lot of doing it over Zoom, which kind of didn't work so well. And then every celebrity, and I'm using the quotes if you can't see it on the YouTube, every celebrity had a podcast for a while. So that meant a lot of smaller independent podcasters started losing some listeners because, number one, nobody's going anywhere.
Sure.
You're not going to listen to it at home. You're going to find something else to do. So you're not going to the gym. You're not driving to work. You're not sitting in a cubicle, whatever. You're not in the kitchen at work, whatever. So numbers went down a little bit. And then post-COVID, it's just been hard to kind of find our footing, which is why we tried a bunch of things in the last few years. And then there was the whole actors and writers strike. So everybody that had a podcast and then stopped it when they went back to work, brought it back last summer, at the end of last summer. So it's just been weird times across the board. I mean, podcasting, yes, but just in general, it's been weird. But yeah, so we're going to try some new things. You and I are going to take it and run with it, and we'll do this podcast every week that we can. There may be some weeks where we're traveling because we are still doing the convention stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So, we're going to have some fun with it.
I'm excited, though.
About the podcast or the conventions?
All of it. All of
right.
it. I haven't, not to jinx anything, ladies and gentlemen, but I feel like 2025 is going to be our year.
All right. Well, we're going to find out. It's not going to, if it's not, it won't be because we didn't do something right.
Exactly,
It won't be a lack of trying. So what have you, it's been a minute. We've done some other stuff, which we'll talk about. But since we've recorded an episode of the Pop Goes the Culture podcast together, it's been a good 3 months now, the whole holiday season. What have you been up to? How'd your holidays go? It looks like you got some more work done on your
we
arms.
got some new work done. Next month, it should be done. And then after this, I swear to God, we're going to have one more session on this, one more session on this, and then I think I'm going to take a break from tattoos.
Are you?
It's not even the money. It's the healing process.
No, it's the money.
Well, the money's no slouch either.
Yeah.
But it's just having to, like, the first few days, just like basically shower like this.
Yep.
And to see my actual, not to get too visceral, ladies and gentlemen, but to have like my actual skin just be like falling off.
I thought you were going to tell us something about in the shower. So I'm glad you're going with the scab. Yes, there is the scab stage. Like it looks glossy but wrinkly, and then it scabs over, and then it.
It's like looks sick, but I'm getting tired of the healing. So outside of that, the holidays went well.
Let's just go through them one at a time. Halloween, how'd that go?
Halloween was like, so we went to the Monster Ball.
Yes, how was that?
Phenomenal.
Good.
I loved it from start to finish. We had great music. They had the entire Shrine Mosque, which for those of you who don't know, it's just a venue here in Missouri. Totally decked out with like giant skeletons, spider webs, whole shebang. Costume contest, drinks that were actually pretty decent and reasonably priced for the ticket vouchers.
Yeah.
And just also free pizza and donuts. So honestly,
as
what
one
was
does
not
at a Halloween
exactly.
party.
So what was not to like?
Yeah.
So that was a blast, and I got to take Molly to that, which obviously brought it from a 8 to a 10. But then, so yeah,
A good 9.75. at least,
9.7. Yeah. I could have had like one more pizza flavor.
Yeah.
And then Thanksgiving. So I will say I'm going through a little bit of a thing where I am becoming acclimated to being part of a more healthier family.
Okay.
And so with that has like the bigger dinners, the bigger celebrations, which at first, I don't know, not to dump my sink on you guys too much,
Go
but
for
it's something to adjust to. It's being something that
So when you say a healthier, what are you talking about? Movement, nutrition, exercise? What are we?
all
What
of
are
the
we talking
above.
about? Okay.
No,
Because it's hard to bite it all off at once.
much less, passive aggression,
So
unfair
more
expectations.
More mental health than physical.
Oh,
health,
very
or-
much mental
Okay,
health.
okay.
I should have been more clear.
Yeah, you should have. God, you suck, man.
So with that, it's been a little bit of a journey being able to become accustomed to that and be more comfortable with that, which I know sounds weird. You'd think, oh, a healthier, much happier dynamic should ultimately be something you're happier about, and I am. But becoming more accustomed to it is the challenge I never thought I would have to face.
It's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So this is like the first.
Do you miss being negative?
It's not that a miss part, but I will say, like, there was a
you're
time.
jonesing for you can take it out on me if
Well,
you need to.
there was a time.
This is your safe space.
There was a very distinct time during the dinner at Thanksgiving specifically, where we're all saying what we're grateful for, and like we're joking around, happy, and I'm just thinking to myself, like, wow, this is awesome, but man, somebody like say something shitty to me, so I guess so it reminds me of home.
Yeah, exactly. And then then Thanksgiving, Christmas. Anything Christmas good time?
Oh, Christmas was, I mean, so we did all the key things like movies, going to the Christmas lights, presents, whole shebang.
Favorite Christmas movie?
Ooh, favorite Christmas. Okay, so it's gotta be Jingle All the Way with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's the one where he's trying to find the Turbo Man.
Found the Turbo Man toy. Yep. It was for the longest time. At least I thought it was Home Alone, but I hadn't watched it in like 15 years. And then I rewatched it recently. I couldn't even get through it.
Really?
And it might be my, I don't know, new age, whatever, but it made me uncomfortable. Like everybody's such a dick to Kevin.
Yeah.
That I don't know. It just kind of took me completely out of it.
That's the point of the story.
And I know, but I don't know. Like for some reason, it took me completely out of it. What about you, Joey Mills?
So yeah, Halloween, my kids are older, so we just start welcome trick-or-treaters. Unfortunately, it seems like the trend lately has been fewer trick-or-treaters. I think we had a half a dozen maybe. So, it's kind of sad to see that era go away. Most people are doing the trunk or treats or the big venues that are, throwing massive, events, whether it's like at a middle school where they're all, set up booths and the kids go to that instead of trick-or-treating, which I get. It's all about safety. It's all about, we don't want our kids wandering the street, but I'll tell you.
I feel like that's just another thing that COVID just like threw way out of whack.
If you're worried about your kids wandering the street on Halloween night, there's a quick fix for that. Go with them.
God forbid you interact with
your
kids.
If they can take it themselves, that means they're at least 16. They're probably fine. They're probably getting into trouble, but they're not. Hopefully they're not getting caught.
I mean, like to some degree, that's.
But
a
if they're
bit of a rite
younger,
of passage.
if they're younger than that, it's kind of like the whole screen time debate. Like, how much screen time is enough screen time? How much is too much screen time? In our experience, having 3 children now, it's not the screen time that matters. It's what you do with it. Are you spending time watching screens with your family and talking about what you're watching or playing or listening to or doing? Or, and Halloween's the same way. We have a lot of people that expect the world to parent their kids for them, it feels like. And that's the parent's job. So if you're not involved in what your kids are doing, whether it's school, Halloween, trick-or-treating, whatever, get involved. Because after it doesn't take long, it's gone shortly. So spend those few years doing stuff with your kids.
And if I've learned anything in the last couple of years, it's that face-to-face interaction and actually investing time doesn't even have to be the most meaningful. Like not every interaction with a child needs to be like, oh, this is a life lesson you're going to learn for the rest of your life.
This is a core memory we're building here. So sit down, shut up, and listen to you.
You are going to remember the 20 seconds I took to joke around with you on the couch or to play with your little Matchbox thing for potentially the rest of your life. Like not every little interaction needs to be world changing. It's just the fact that you'll remember I was there.
Right. Exactly. That's the point. So Halloween was kind of like, yeah, well, that's too bad. Thanksgiving, we kind of kept it low key. My wife had her second spinal surgery in 4 months, so we were kind of doing the recovery thing.
Slowly but surely becoming a cybernetic woman.
Yeah, well, the next one is the fusion,
woman.
and yeah, so. And then, still kept it low key for Christmas. We don't really do much for New Year. I go to bed and then get woken up by the dogs barking at the fireworks. Luckily, because it was so cold and windy, instead of taking 30 minutes of fireworks from 12 to 12:30, it was like from 12 to 12:03. They were like, you know what? It's cold and windy out here. Let's go back inside.
I totally forgot about New Year's. Yeah, we had a little bit of a shindig at our place, and it was going great for a while. You know, a bunch of like saying what we were grateful for, what we aspire for 2024, and then we had a person. God, I love him, but he indulged a little too much.
Oh yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Joey Mills,
vibe changes.
I was out of pot because he felt like he had to throw up.
When you say you're out of pot, I was like, dude, you can just go up here to the store. You can walk there from here. Not that I've done that.
But then, like after that was all figured out, we took him home. He was good. We came back, and then a friend, like right after midnight happened, and I was ready to be like, okay, everybody, thanks for coming. See you later. Somebody said the infamous 3 words, "I want IHOP." So we went to IHOP until 3.
As I say, next thing you know, it's 4 o'clock when you're pulling in.
Exactly. And just like, and then we go to IHOP, booked wall to wall, and then we get there, we sat down, and then we hear kind of screaming. I was like, what's going on there? And then one of the IHOP waitresses, who was on her last nerve already because she's working on New Year's, screamed, "Get out!" So like I go to the window, and all of a sudden I see this like
your face pressed against the glass.
Well,
like a little kid,
maybe 16. This 16-year-old kid just rips his shirt off and starts fighting another guy in the IHOP parking lot.
Another 16-year-old, or like when you say another guy,
presumably. I mean, presumably.
Like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, he was like a little bigger, but just like, and I'm just like, this is great. It is 3 a.m. But funnily enough, when we get done with breakfast at like 4 a.m., and we're going to the car, kid leaves his shirt.
As one does. You don't want to go back.
But like it is maybe 28 degrees out at this point, and he just rips his shirt off, like he's got an internal heater.
You don't want that binding effect if you're going to be going all kung fu on somebody. You don't want to. You need full range of motion.
I guess, but this kid's like string bean level.
Well,
a rogue wind was going to take this kid off his feet, and he just
again, you want to lose the sail. You don't need to be caught by a blasted gust of wind, because your shirt was billowing out.
I mean, if anything, I was a tiny bit impressed that he had the confidence to just like, you know what, let's let it all hang loose. If I'm gonna go out swinging, I'm at least gonna do it with my shirt off.
If I'm going swinging, I'm going naked. So that's kind of been what it's been. We did a couple other things as well. Zack and I helped out a fellow podcaster in need. Buddy of ours does the Soup Review podcast. That's the name of the show, the Soup Review podcast. He had an ankle replacement, so we're talking about bionic people. He's a bionic ankle now.
Bionic soup.
But he couldn't sit down and record a podcast, and honestly, who wants to if you're recovering from an ankle replacement? So we recorded a couple episodes. I know they've started to slowly trickle out. Because he messaged me the other day. He's like, "I'm sorry I haven't put these out yet. I can't even sit at my computer long enough to schedule a podcast episode." So, but they are starting to trickle out. So be sure to check out the Soup Review podcast and get better, Paul. We're pulling for you.
Honestly, like it was a ton of fun.
Oh, it was not good. The soup was disgusting. I mean, it was fun to get together and do something.
But like typically it's like you ask me to do something and I'd be like, yeah, sure, whatever. But like once we were doing it, I was like, man, there's something to this. This is a lot of fun.
Maybe we'll take the sandwich review. I don't know. We'll figure it out. We also had a bonus Christmas Eve episode with Alan Tudyk. That was a lot of fun. You can go back and check that out. But yeah, just kind of keeping it low key, getting through the holidays and getting to the new year so we can hit the ground running with the podcast and with all the convention stuff, all of that. So yeah, it's a good time. It's going to happen fast. We'll talk more about that as we go. So yeah, hit us up. Let us know what you've been up to as well. You can hit us on the social media. Just find us at PGTC Podcast. That stands for Pop Goes the Culture. So at PGTC Podcast. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, Mastodon, X, YouTube now.
Pretty much everywhere.
We are everywhere. And just, message us or comment, and we will read your comments. We'll see them all. Some of them we may share on future episodes. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Few headlines from the past week or so in entertainment pop culture. First up, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 held on to the top spot at the box office. The film has earned an 88% with critics and 96% with fans over on Rotten Tomatoes. Have you seen? Are you a Sonic person? You seem like you'd be a Sonic guy.
So I am. Oh, okay. I'll try to take that one in stride.
Yeah. No, I'm saying you're. It's a younger demographic.
So I do love Sonic. I haven't seen the most recent one, but I've seen the previous two. And I don't know. I was a little. So I want to be on record. I love Keanu Reeves. I think he's a phenomenal actor, and even the voiceover stuff he's done, like, for instance, Johnny Silverhand from Cyberpunk. I think he did an amazing job. I was interested that they cast him as Shadow.
Right.
I don't know. I was kind of thinking they might have been going into the direction of, like, granted, they did Idris Elba for Knuckles and Ben Schwartz, of course, for Sonic, but they did... for Tails. I couldn't think of the name.
Is it still Colleen doing Tails?
It's still Colleen doing Tails. And so I was thinking, okay, so maybe they're looking at it a little bit more through the aspect of
we want
let's get a little bit more of the voice actors with these established roles. So I was a little not disappointed necessarily, but surprised that they went the route with Keanu. However, the very little that I've seen it, because I haven't seen the film yet, he does a good job. Like, I think it's an interesting thing that Sonic is. It's such a beloved part of pop culture. I mean, Sonic was very revolutionary in the early video games era, like even to now. So the fact that it's kind of leading the charge almost with making video games not just more relevant to society in general, but to be much more prominent in the film industry, one that, I think we can argue, especially like the early Mario movie or like
the old one,
like the old one. Like video games doesn't have a good track record with being in kind of like a film adaptation. So it's interesting that it's kind of leading the charge with that and getting all of these bigger names. I mean, of course, Idris Elba, Ben Schwartz, Keanu Reeves, etc. But this is all to say, I do have a friend who went and watched it with his son and his wife, and they said this is probably the best movie of 2024. Which,
that's high praise.
High praise, sure, and like makes me want to see it more.
Do you only watch kids' films? Who knows? Yeah. Do you think we would be having this conversation had they not, way back when, listened to the fans and changed the design? Because remember, originally for the Sonic film, the design was like, that was all anybody talked about, was like, this looks horrible. This looks like it's going to give us nightmares. This character design. Do you feel like if they had stuck to their guns, held their ground, and said, you know what, this is the design. We spent too much money on this. We're not going back. Do you think there would have been a 2 and 3?
The original design was definitely nightmare fuel. I think their decision to do that was actually very indicative as to why this series now is actually as popular as it is, because they changed it originally. Like, yes, I mean, they were kind of bullied into doing it, but I think another way that everybody can choose to interpret this as that they were making this movie for fans. Like, obviously they're there to make money,
right,
but they were listening to the fans, and so in a way the fans felt invested, at least I did, felt invested in this movie. You guys listened to us and made a significant change, literally how the main character was going to look for at least, and at the time we only knew it was only one movie, but like for this entire movie, it was changed because we spoke up. We, in a way, helped make this movie. So with that, I feel, since I felt invested in, I went and saw the movie, loved it. And I feel like that's the routine and the pattern that they're starting to do. They listened. When Tails was announced, they were hoping that Colleen was going to be reprising her role.
That she'd be available.
Exactly. Well, that too. And sure enough, Colleen now voices Tails. And, with Idris Elba as Knuckles and so on and so forth, it's showing the people that are making these movies are showing us that what we feel matters. It's not entirely, there is of course the focus on profit,
right,
but not entirely focused on profit. And I think that is what really sets apart the Sonic films from other kind of more fan-based movie franchises.
Okay, fair enough. At number 2, Mufasa, the Lion King, still held at number 2. Don't know why we needed that film, but there it is. Nosferatu debuted at number 3.
That's the movie I'm actually really excited to see. I've had a couple friends see it.
I can't wait till it's streaming because I will definitely watch it.
There's a part of me that really wants to see it on the big screen because I feel like that would be a really cool one to watch there.
Yeah.
But whether I get it film screening. I don't know. I've just heard that they do a really good job with it.
Yeah, Robert Eggers does a great job with all of his films. They're a little out there, all of them, so this feels like the perfect property for that. Well, let's see. Wicked and Moana 2 each dropped one spot to round out the top 5. Wicked is now the highest grossing musical theater adaptation of all time. Prior to that, it was Mamma Mia back in 2008.
I believe it.
So yeah, it's tearing it up. Wicked is. And now you can get it on digital. I mean, it went quick.
So.
It was fast to digital.
And I didn't realize they were doing this in at least 2 parts, right?
Yes, 2 parts.
Because I saw on our Roku TV that it said Wicked Part 1. I didn't realize that they had split it up.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yep. That was the plan all along.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't like they started filming and they're like, oh no.
So I haven't seen.
We got a 7-hour movie here.
I haven't seen the new version yet. Are they adding on to the story? Because the original was pretty self-contained.
From what I understand, no. I mean, the first film essentially ends, as I remember it, at intermission of the theatrical production. So I think, they may flesh out some things. They may, give a little more attention to some of the
these
characters or some of the relationships between the characters, whatever. But from what I understand, it's going to be pretty straightforward. So
interesting. That's one of the ones that definitely, like, when it's free on streaming, I'll definitely probably watch.
Same here. Waiting for it to hit Max. All right. The Batman 2 has been delayed from its announced release date. It was supposed to be released October 2nd, 2026. So we're still talking like way down the road.
Yeah.
It's actually slid a year from that now to October 1st, 2027, which tells me they probably don't have anything yet. There's probably no script. There's probably nothing. If you're looking at it's 2025, you're looking at end of 2027, fourth quarter 2027.
That's fine.
That will put it. That will make it, if it hits that release date, 5 years after the Batman, which is a long time for sequels, and 3 years after the Penguin. So if we have nothing in that world for at least 3 years, do you think people will still be excited for and especially if they're doing their own? Because if we're talking October 2027, we know there's at least 1 or 2 films from DC coming out next year, and then I know they've got a few others ready to go. Some of them are in production right now. Some of them start soon. If we've got a whole other continuity going on, do you think that the Batman 2 is going to draw the interest that the first one did?
My gut feeling is, first off, I'm fine with it because I haven't even watched the first one yet.
Right.
And I've been meaning to, but that 3-hour runtime. But if, and let me cook because I know this is a little different, but so when The Last Guardian was announced, which was the spiritual successor of Shadow of the Colossus, everybody was losing their minds. They were very excited. Years go by, quote unquote, things were in development. And it wasn't until, I want to say, granted, this is different than 3 years. It was like 10 or 12 years, but I feel like a similar thing is
in
going
video
to
games, 10 or 12 years is like 3 years.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. I think a similar thing is going to happen, is that if they truly do wait much longer, people are not going to give a shit. Because I assure you, when Last Guardian finally came out and was like, okay, here's the release date, it's finally coming out, I didn't really care. Like, it's just so much time had passed. I had grown so much as a person that it just wasn't
Your
really.
interests change,
Yeah, exactly. So, and I feel like a lot of it will happen to this. Like, sure, I will probably go watch it if I like the Batman, but the excitement or the draw of like, wow, yeah, we got the next one is kind of going to get lost on a lot of people who watched it when it first came out because, I don't know, just for the exact same reason.
And there are a lot of folks that like the Batman, but the fact that it came out day and date on HBO Max, I think, is why as many people saw it as they did. Yeah, I think by now that curve probably would have flattened out because people would have got, it would have been on Max instead of the day of, it would have been 6 months later or whatever, and they still would have waited for that. But you compare it to something like Joker, which blew up.
Oh yeah,
got the Oscar nominations, made $1 billion at the box office. I think that's a literal figure. I think it made $1 billion, and then, a few years go by, we get the second one, and it's a completely different genre, and it falls. And then we've got what was the DC universe, which Batman wasn't a part of that necessarily. So that continuity is gone now. We've got a new one. They're going to have more projects coming out before this one. I worry that I would not be surprised if it does not get made, period, to be honest. we'll see.
So
what
you think they're
happens.
just gonna?
I think at some
just
point,
scrap it completely.
I think at some point they will. I think they're going to hold around and say, you know, as soon as you're ready, let us know, and we'll look at it and we'll let you know if we green light it or not. Because James Gunn has, you know, if nothing else, he's on social media telling people what his thoughts are, and he has said, you know, we're not moving forward on any project unless there is a ready to shoot script in our hands. And so, again, if you're moving this one back another full year, and now you're talking almost 3 years, 2 3/4 of a year, you know, down the road, tells me there's probably not a script ready. And if you know, Superman takes off, which trailer looks fantastic.
Oh my god!
If Superman does well, if the rest of these projects, you know, Peacemaker season 2, the Creature Commandos animated thing is a blast. If those things take off and that's what people become invested in, are they going to go back and watch this? You know, right? Like, for example, and this is not it's not a perfect one-to-one comparison, but had they made another Andrew Garfield Spider-Man in between Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, and we knew this is its own separate thing, would anybody have cared? Clearly, they haven't cared about Sony's villain-centric Spider-Man villain universe, because that's done and over.
Done.
They're like, no more of that. We're tired of losing money. So I don't know. It makes me curious to see if it'll even get produced, and if so, what will become of it, how it'll fare.
And so, not for nothing, I mean, what James Gunn has done so far with just the trailer of Superman has me so excited, and has renewed some faith in a property that I have been sorely disappointed in for a very long time, which is, you know, the DC universe.
Yeah.
And with the fact that, in my opinion, Marvel's kind of going through a little bit of an identity crisis right now.
Yep.
I think now is probably the only time, if they want to be prevalent in the current pop culture space with the DC universe, now was the time for a rebrand. And so far, James Gunn has been pretty impressive with that. I am curious, though, is the Batman
is not
universe,
a part
it's
of
not part of, so that's just incredibly
so
confusing.
Joker and its sequel are its own thing.
Okay.
The whole DC thing with Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill and all that was its own thing.
That is now over.
That is over. And there's a little gray area where people are still asking, you know, like, what is continuity at this point? Like, you made Peacemaker season 1. Is that in continuity? Because you have a couple of Justice League characters at the end of that series. So there's some gray area. But the Batman and the Batman 2, the Penguin would be its own thing. And then we have this new thing. So,
see, I think this is just indicative of the problem, though, is that I think, like, if 10, 15 years ago, this would have been just fine.
Yeah.
But Marvel has kind of, for better or worse, screwed up our sense of that, is that we actually want a continuity. We want a continuous, like, this is all in the same universe. So I feel like that is probably what is going to need to happen in order for DC to be more prevalent, because, again, Marvel has made us want to have, okay, so Captain America, Hulk, Thor, they're all in the same universe. They're all friends, buddy. This is all one continuous story instead of bits and parts of different. So I feel like now we'll need to have at least some sort of continuity with Superman is now hanging out with Wonder Woman, Batman, who is also in all of these movies that all tie into this overarching universe. That's going to need to happen, which I know is easier said than done.
Well, and at some point they will have a Batman, and it will not be Robert Pattinson, probably. I mean, because it's its own thing, and not for nothing, but, you know, yes, there is post-Endgame fatigue, post-Endgame issues with what Marvel has been putting out, but it's no coincidence, I don't feel like, that at the same time what's tanking is having a multiverse where there are multiple different stories happening across different parallel universes. So if that's what you actually have in DC now, without speaking to that, like, yeah, this is somewhere else. This takes place in a different timeline or a different continuity, different parallel universe, whatever. Like, the only one that's succeeded with that has been the animated Spider-Man, Spider-Verse type films, because they lean heavily into it. They're like, yeah, we're just going to go for it. And that's what and it's animated so we can get away with things
literally
that you can't
in
get
the
away
name, Into the Spider-Verse.
Exactly. So if that's what DC has going on, and they're not leaning into that, they're not leaning into, hey, there are multiple, things happening here. Because the Flash kind of did that, but at that point it was too late, So it wasn't a great movie. It did lean into that, but
well, and who knows? Maybe like a year or two down the line, we'll be sitting right here saying, "Okay, so we were wrong."
Yeah,
James Gunn's a smart man.
Yeah, way to go. While we're talking DC, one last thing. Jason Momoa has been cast in the new DC universe, the new DC continuity, as Lobo, the character he should have been cast as from the get-go.
Oh, yeah.
Like, fans on the internet and social media were like, no, he's not Aquaman. He should have been
It's
Lobo.
the role that man was born to play.
That's what he should have been, for the last 10 years. But no, that'll be going forward. He'll be making his debut as Lobo in Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. So we're leaning heavy into the supers right off the bat, which is probably a good place to go if you're DC.
It's a good day to be. It's a good time to be Zach Wilson.
And we talked about the Sony Pictures deal. So Sony Pictures CEO thinks that critics are to blame for why Madam Web, Kraven the Hunter both got absolutely destroyed at the box office this year. When you've got those two, the Venom films have kind of fallen in quality since the first one. Then there's the whole Morbius fiasco. So they have, again, we talked about, they said Sony's like, we're done making these Spider-Man adjacent villain films. And the CEO of Sony Pictures is saying it's because critics are crapping on these movies before they're in theaters. That's why they're not performing. Nobody's going to see them because whatever the modern equivalent of like a Roger Ebert would be is saying this movie's terrible. I don't know that that's the problem. I think having seen a few of these, not, the only one I paid to see in theaters was the first Venom. The rest of them, it's like, hey, when it's streaming, I'll check it out and see what they're not as bad as what social media folks say. They're certainly not good. Maybe instead of the critics saying these movies aren't good and that's killing your potential at the box office, maybe the movies not being good is hurting you more than the critics pointing out the fact that it's not good.
I think there might be some semblance of truth with this. And like he at least isn't entirely wrong because, and I'm thinking, I try to be a little more of a savvy consumer. And so when my main source of, one of my main hobbies is video games, I pretty religiously, before I purchase any video game, I look up reviews. And if it scores less than like an 8 out of 10, I'm likely not going to purchase this game. Fast forward, this game is on sale. I actually purchase it and give it a shot. I'm actually pleasantly surprised. And that kind of begs the question, yes, these are critics that have a long history and career in reviewing movies, have a good sense of the art form itself. At the end of the day, though, they are individuals who have certain preferences that I or other consumers might not. And just because they did not like this movie doesn't mean I won't. A perfect case in point with this is Morbius. That was, critically ripped to shreds. I went and watched it. Granted, I waited till it was streaming, so I didn't pay anything that I wasn't already paying. And I'm kind of similar with you. I didn't love it. Like, I don't think it was like
it wasn't the worst film of the
film,
year, but
I didn't think it deserved all of the like bashing on the internet as it did. I enjoyed a few parts, and as an actor, I actually really appreciate. Oh goodness, what's his name?
Which one? Jared Leto?
Jared Leto, thank you. Okay. I blanked
So
on his name.
it's either him or Matt Smith. That's the only two people in the movie.
Yeah, Jared Leto. So I think he's not maybe entirely off base, but I do agree with you that if so many different critics are saying a lot of the same points, there is likely a lack of quality here.
I would say that he would have a better argument if this was like Oscar bait films that were coming out and people are like, the critics are saying, you know what, there are better Oscar bait films out there. There's a better performance from Kate Blanchett in this thing or Meryl Streep in this thing than in this. But notoriously, fans of comic book movies really don't care what the critics say. They're going to go see them if they're invested in those characters. Or if you've put together a long story and they feel like if I don't see this, I'll miss something. That's what Marvel was good at. Even if you didn't care about the Hulk, you watched it because you didn't want to miss that connective tissues and not, you have to wonder what's going on later on down the road. Again, I don't know that the critics crapping on comic book movies is why your comic book movies aren't making a lot of money. I think it's the quality of the films and the fact that if I wait 3 months, it's going to be streaming somewhere, and I've already paid that. I'm sure as hell not going to drop this kind of money for this kind of movie in this kind of economy right now.
And I think that might even be part of it as well, because so basically most streaming platforms are in between $10 to $15 a month. That's roughly
One ticket.
Exactly. It's roughly the cost of one ticket. So just in a savvy consumer sense, why would I pay a price for one ticket to see one movie one time when I could just wait maybe 1 or 2 months, 3 max, for it to be on a streaming platform that I already pay for on a monthly basis, that I already have access
I
to
can eat my own food that's a hell of a lot
Exactly.
cheaper than buying it at the movie
Exactly.
theater.
Thousands of movies at any given time. I could wake up at 2 a.m. and watch this movie if I wanted to, with my own food and comfort of my own home. And so while I do...
You know, I can pause it to go to the restroom if it's 3 hours long.
Exactly.
The
Exactly.
Batman.
So while I will always have a nice soft spot in my heart for the movie theaters after basically growing up in them, I will say that unfortunately this is kind of the start of a trend of the box office performance is probably going to be an inaccurate way to measure the success of a movie here in the next maybe 5 years.
I agree. And finally, as of Wednesday, January the 1st, every work from the 1920s has entered the public domain. The copyright law is 95 years. So if you go back 95 years, everything from 1929 and back in history is now public domain. What does that mean? That includes works like Hemingway's A Farewell to Arms is now in the public domain. The English translation of the book All Quiet on the Western Front, which I'm sure our listeners are like, oh my God, that's available now? I'm going to go make my own.
I mean, I'm just reading these and I'm like, God, I'm illiterate. I don't know what either of those are.
But it also includes about a dozen more of the short Mickey Mouse films that they would run in theaters before the movie. The Skeleton Dance, which was Disney's first silly symphonies, the one that's just music and animation, that Walt Disney directed. That's in the public domain. The character of Popeye is in the public domain.
That's a tiny bit exciting.
Wait till waiting
the gritty reboot of Popeye.
Waiting for the horror, the cheap horror version of Popeye now. Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue is now in the public domain. So maybe we need to change the sounds on our podcast here. It's like, you can't do nothing with this. So those types of things, everything from the 20s and beyond, are now public domain, which means you can create your own works based off of those specific works.
Which I'm
you
sure
can have Steamboat Willie Mickey Mouse, but you can't have the red shorts running around topless Mickey Mouse because that's different.
Which I'm sure, though, the internet will responsibly use.
Of course, yes. And in other news, you were talking about Home Alone a minute ago. Actor Daniel Stern, who was in Home Alone, City Slickers, he was actually the narrator on the TV show The Wonder Years as well. He started a TikTok account where he details life living on a tangerine farm. Apparently, he owns a tangerine farm, and that's where he lives. Which, knowing him, he's kind of off the wall anyway. It's like, that totally tracks.
That checks out.
But the real hidden gem is that he's a sculptor too. So a lot of celebrities take up art, and it's like, oh, that's precious. You're using your name, your fan, your recognition to promote subpar art. I mean, I know art's, eye of the beholder and all that, but it's like, really? But he's a sculptor, and he's actually we have a photo of it on the next page of our talking points here. I don't think anybody can see it on the live stream. If you're listening to the podcast, you certainly can't.
Incredible.
This is called Dancer on a Chair, and it's it's black and white, so it's hard to see on our things, but it's fantastic. Like, this guy's actually a talented sculptor.
Yeah, wow.
He's got TikToks of him shooting hoops, with the old peach bucket up on the barn, nailed to the barn because he's on a tangerine farm. And then he's got a workshop where he does this kind of stuff. So that's impressive.
This is when you go to the museum and you see those old Greek sculptures that and all of the defined muscles on those. If you see,
you can see shin bone on there.
Yeah, if you look real closely. We're not talking the one guy, but I forget his name. But you can definitely see there's very impressive definition. Even the ripples of the dress.
Yeah,
I'm very
it's a dancer. She is it's just a chair, but she's got her legs up over the back of the chair and she's leaning back. I mean, you can see this kind of dance at different times. There are other places where they don't dance like this, but
do we know
he's not sculpting those folks yet.
Do we know if this is wood or marble?
It's clay.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
So, yeah, fantastic work. Daniel Stern. So keep an eye out on that on his TikTok channel. Well, let us know again what stories grab your attention each and every week. Hit us up in the comments or on social media. Again, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, all of that stuff at PGTC Podcast. So if we use your suggestion, we'll give you a shout out in an upcoming episode. We are going to take a real quick break. And when we come right back, we are talking New Year's resolutions and pop goes culture in 2025. Don't go anywhere, guys. We're going to be right back right after this. Ready? Mm-hmm. Thanks to Florida citrus growers for sponsoring this week's episode. You know, you wouldn't have thought that the Florida citrus growers would sponsor Pop Goes the Culture podcast, but boy, they sure have.
Doing the Lord's work over there.
They are. You know what they need?
Tell me.
Tangerine farms.
Tangerine farm.
So that they can go and have sculptures.
With a minor interest on sculpting.
That's right. It is a new year. It's a new start for Pop Goes the Culture podcast, like we talked about. We're still doing weekly episodes. We are playing with things. Give us the month of January to get stuff set up the way we want, but we're playing with some video so that as we're recording the audio, we'll record the video, we'll get those uploaded. Once that's going smooth, then maybe we start live streaming while we're recording the episode. So you can watch the live stream. You could actually chat back and forth, interact with the show. So give us a minute on some of that. Again, like we've talked about, we've expanded our social media footprint. There are posts there every Monday through Friday, sometimes more on the weekends as well. And we have an all-new merch store with the Threads collab. That is a local group that's teaming up with local artists, local organizations to do, print-on-demand merchandise. And so we are working with them as well. We'll put a link to that in the episode description. Right now, I think all they have is a few T-shirts, hoodies, and stocking caps because it's wintertime. But look for that. We're working with a designer there. There'll be more things that are pop culture and entertainment related that aren't necessarily slapped with Pop Goes the Culture all over it. So keep an eye out on that. And we'll be adding online chats, watch parties, different things throughout the year. So we're going on into 2025 with some big plans.
The thing I'm most excited about is actually interacting more with the fan base.
Yeah.
Because, we get it sometimes, like when we're on the road doing cons, like, people say, hey, you did a great job at that interview. Hey, really liked your energy, yada, yada, yada. And like, that's really nice. And I'm sure we're on the same page here. They're like, yeah, that's always nice to hear. But to hear that somebody also went out of their way and listened to our podcast and like incorporates us in their daily commute, like for some reason that just means so much more to me.
Yeah.
So to be able to interact with you guys and to even if it's just like little fireside chats about what we thought about this movie or how much this video game sucks, like let's commiserate about that. Like, I don't know, I feel like that is a layer of this show that I have been missing, that I know that you guys, long before I joined the team, guys did a bit. And so I'm really excited that you're going back to that. And I actually, for the first time, get to be a part of it.
Yeah, as you mentioned, COVID kind of killed some of that. But yeah, there are things we can do. COVID also forced us to find ways to connect online that were not your typical just posting on social media. So again, we've got stuff set up. I can, in the links in the episode description here, I'll put some links to our Thread Collab store. I'll put a link to our Discord server. You can always join that and chat. It's free to join. And all this stuff is free. I mean, we don't charge you for the podcast. We're not going to charge you for anything else. And then, I'm looking at a platform that we can do watch parties where we can watch something and then there's like a chat on the side fun. So we can be chatting as we're watching things that COVID did. It was terrible. It sucks. I mean, we've all lost people during COVID, but it also, it's kind of like big tech booms happen right after wars because we're investing so much in wartime new technology. Unfortunately, with COVID, it was kind of a wartime thing where it's like now we can do all kinds of stuff from home. We don't have to leave the house if we don't want to. So we'll find ways to integrate more of that because we get around quite a bit because we're doing the convention stuff. But at the same time, there are places where we are not. So if we can find ways to connect with folks there, we're going to try our best to make that happen. It is a brand new year, brand new start for a lot of things. 2025, real quick. What are some of your New Year's resolutions? You mentioned a healthier mental health, a healthier environment, but what else? What are some of the things that you're looking at that you really want to nail down for 2025?
So mental health is definitely going to take front and center for me, and I know that that's going to be the same for a lot of people, and I think that's honestly very beautiful, the fact that we now, as a society, not maybe as a whole for certain areas,
right?
But I think that mental health is now taking a lot more of a center stage, and we're finally, as a whole, starting to realize mental health is just as important as your physical health because it's one of those things that I think a lot of us take for granted. Like, being happy is just a mindset. It's just a perspective change. In some cases, sure. But for people maybe such as myself, you do have to take a little bit more of the reins on. You have to be more intentional. You have to actually seek additional help. It is not just a perspective change. So with that, I would like to focus a little bit more on the mental health as well as treating my body a little better. Now I know this might be silly for those of our viewers / listeners that might be a tad older, but I turned 30 this year, and I know
You have only 5 years left.
only 5 years left. But even some people say 30 is the boogeyman.
No,
and
it's not. It's 35.
So I want to get a little bit ahead of that. So in addition to ramping up the yoga classes I teach, as well as doing them in my own personal time and doing my meditations, I'd like to eat a little better. So I've been, I don't know if I've told you, Joey Mills, but
Not at all.
I have been obsessed with Greek yogurt recently.
Really?
So I've been trying to incorporate it into a lot of different things, whereas dips or eating it just plain during breakfast to help kind of bolster my gut biome. So that's kind of the trend I would like to keep up with. So in addition to treating my gut better, treating
Your head and your belly.
gut in the belly.
If you get
I'm
those
sorry.
two things working.
Head in the gut, and then, the rest will kind of snowball in. What about you, Joey?
Just everybody. I think this time of year, it's weird because I've had friends that have said this, and when Kenny was around, he would say it on the podcast. It's just another day in the calendar. If you're gonna pick a day to start, pick today. You don't have to wait till the first. You don't have to wait till
that's
Monday.
an interesting point of view. Yeah.
So making intentional decisions to try to get healthier. Of course, we all do that. I think this time of year, but it's if nothing else, it's a good reminder of like, oh yeah, I just spent the last 3 months of the holiday season eating way too much chocolate-based stuff or whatever, cookies, candies, cakes, pies, whatever. Let's get back to something a little more sustainable. So trying to do that, building this thing back up, the whole pop goes the culture, hitting the conventions. I mean, just trying to get the most out of the stuff that we're doing. Like if we're at a convention, how can we get the most out of that to benefit, yes, all the attendees, yes, the guests we work with, but ourselves as well. Because have been times doing conventions where it's like, I'm here for everybody else, and you don't stop and think about yourself, and sometimes that can turn around and bite you in the rear end. Just being mindful and being in the moment and being present. Things like, if you go to, like, for example, you go to a concert, how many people do you see watching the concert through their phone because they're trying to record clips to TikTok? They want to get viral moment or whatever. It's like, put the phones down and just being in the moment of stuff and appreciating where you're at and being there, I think is something that I know I can certainly work on. I think a lot of us, again, based on the number of camera phones that come out every time you go to a live event, it's like, just be here with us. You're going to get the experience.
Absolutely.
And hang on to that, because those people who aren't here, it's okay. They missed it. You don't have to show them your videos or whatever, your photos that you took or whatever. Just enjoy having been here. And you can tell the stories. We've lost the art of telling stories to each other, it feels like, because I'll just post it on social media and they'll get to see the video for themselves. But the video is just whatever you pointed your camera at. It doesn't talk about how you feel in that moment.
Getting back to
when this
intention,
person
there's
did
not a lot of
this, I did this. When they did that, man, I got goosebumps. You don't see that on a video unless you take your camera and like, oh, look, I got goosebumps.
Exactly, and in which case, please don't.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't want to see that. Don't need to see your goosebumps.
That's something to keep in mind, though, I think, for us as well. I mean, I know I've found myself in the past when I write the show notes or when I'm prepping for these interviews, I'm thinking, all right, so what would be a good question to ask them that I just know the audience will actually love, which is fine in a vacuum.
That is part of it.
But to revolve the entire interview, the entire 45 minutes to an hour on not gotcha moments necessarily, but like highlight moments, I think in and of itself, you lose that story, that telling a story aspect. You are not focusing on evolving this celebrity in front of all of their fans. You are basically just trying to cut them down into tiny snippets that they'll get a tiny, meaningless reaction from and then move on to the next thing.
And honestly, those come from the crowd. Like, I try not to ask the questions that I know the crowd's going to ask unless I've thought or been prompted in some cases ahead of time. Like, hey, here's a topic that when this question comes up, we would like to try to avoid. Because part of our job is falling on the grenade too, So
As we both have.
Sometimes you think of ways to work around that so that you can get that out of the way. So, being mindful. But again, it all comes back to just being aware, being present. What questions are being asked? Where is this conversation going? How can I steer it the right direction? for the benefit of everyone involved, including ourselves. We need to take care of ourselves,
And
too.
it's a good thing to keep mindful of, especially since, I mean, just looking at this year, let alone the next few years, like how both of our careers are evolving and we're getting more and more gigs. We're getting more like stable, like consistent, like they want us back year to year. Like it is so amazing. But with that, remaining intentional and making sure that we are giving these organizations not just the content but the level of quality that pop is being known for is really a great thing to keep in mind for the duration of this year.
Absolutely. Those are some of our resolutions. Again, let us know what you think. What are some of your New Year's resolutions? That is our pop quiz this week. You can hit us up again in the comments on social media. Search for and find us at PGTC Podcast on your favorite social media platform. We're probably there. And let us know some of your New Year's resolutions as well, or what you thought of some of ours. And if we read your suggestions, we'll give you a shout out in an upcoming episode. So check that out. Coming up this weekend in entertainment and pop culture, Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul, streams on Netflix starting today, this Friday. I love the Wallace and Gromit movies.
That's
a lot of fun.
That's a pair that just will not die.
No.
And I'm here for it.
Franz Ferdinand. I thought he died.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
Wasn't he killed? Isn't that why we're for World War I, sir? New album from Franz Ferdinand called The Human Fear releases today, this Friday as well. Animate Raleigh, an anime convention out in Raleigh, North Carolina, kicks off Friday. It runs through Sunday. Saturday is National Spaghetti Day. So if you're not sure what to fix this weekend, just saying.
I do now.
How do you like your spaghetti?
Ooh, I think I'm a meat sauce. No. So I will do meat sauce, but honestly, my go-to dream spaghetti is actually one of the lentils. I got put on lentils recently on spaghetti. Life-changing, let me tell you.
Yeah, no.
Much healthier, too.
Sunday is National Screenwriters Day, and it's also National Trivia Day. So, I don't know, hit up your favorite screenwriter, tag them on social media, tell them how much you appreciate their work, or just ask them a trivia question.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a trivia day as well. And the 12 Days of Christmas wraps up on Sunday. Contrary to popular belief, Christmas is the first day, not the last day of the 12 Days of Christmas.
Interesting.
It is not the 13th through the 25th. It is the 25th through the 5th of January.
I wasn't even privy to this.
Yes, this is it. Do you remember all the 12 Days of Christmas?
No.
12.
Get me to
12?
6 and I'm
12?
about done.
Okay, well, let's go backwards. Sometimes it's easier going backwards. 12.
Days of Christmas, my true love gave to me.
Hold on. 12.
Piper's piping?
Piping. 11. Drummers drumming.
Maybe.
10. Lords a leaping.
9.
Ladies dancing.
8.
Maids a milking.
7.
Swans a swimming.
Maybe. 6.
Geese a laying.
5 golden rings.
The one that you know.
Yeah.
4 calling birds, 3 French hens, 2 turtle doves,
and a partridge in a pear tree.
That's got to be close. Maybe we got the wrong people in the wrong order. Maybe
Have we ever
the
established
leaping lords get there and they're like, nah, there's 10 of us.
like that's 10 of us.
That's too
Have we ever established what a partridge is?
It's a bird.
It's a bird?
You don't know what a partridge is?
I always thought it was like a present. Like a parcel is what I'm thinking of. That's what it is.
Yeah. Poor Zack. We got work to do.
I guess partridges are into pears, I guess. Pear tree.
Or they're into trees, and it just happened to be
a pear tree.
You know where I see a
But
lot
that
of
feels like
partridges?
so specific, though.
You know where you see a lot of partridges?
Tell me.
Tangerine trees. Tangerine farms.
Well, when we know
They'll
somebody
attract
who probably sees a lot of.
I know somebody can sculpt you a partridge.
There it is.
Because his tangerine farm is taking off like gangbusters. Also, don't forget to join us next weekend. Talk a little bit about next weekend. We are going to record next weekend. When you get the episode on Friday, know that I'm going to be probably in the air. You are going to be wrapping things up and hitting the road. Where are you going next weekend?
So I'm going to be in Northwest Arkansas, specifically Rogers, Arkansas, at NWA Comic Con.
Which is not the rap group.
It is not. I was very disappointed when I learned that.
It is Northwest Arkansas Comic Con. Yes, that is next Saturday and Sunday.
We're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to have a lot of heavy hitters, a lot of voice actors and on-screen actors, as well as a bunch of great comic book writers and illustrators. It's going to be a great time. If you are in the area or areas adjacent to it, I really would love to see you guys and have us hang out.
Yeah, stop by the stage, say hi to Zack, take him out for spaghetti with lentils maybe after the show. And we'll get into more specifics next week as we get closer as well. I will be at Central Carolina Comic Con. Did you know there's a Central Carolina?
I did not. I thought there was only the 2.
No, that's where the partridges come from. They originated.
It's all
in Central
coming together,
Carolina.
ladies and gentlemen.
I'll be in Columbia, South Carolina, So again, hope to see you at those as well. So it's a funny story. That's one company running 2 shows on the same weekend. So don't have any idea what to expect because I know that staff will be split in half. So people that are used to doing things may be doing those things in one place, and somebody else may be doing that same job that they're not used to doing in a different place. And it's going to be an interesting weekend for sure.
I'm sure shenanigans will ensue, and I'm sure there are going to be fires, hopefully metaphorically, that are going to come up that we'll take care of. And so with that comes some new excitement, I'm going to be honest. Like this kind of uncharted territory. I mean, NWA Comic Con, a little bit more of an established one. This is the first year for Central. So I'm glad that I am kind of with the pre-existing one, and you're kind of taking a little bit more of the uncharted territory. So, but I think it'll be awesome.
It sounds great, but I'll tell you, last year, NWA Comic Con, I think it was Thursday before our friends got to leave because of there's like a massive ice storm that blew through.
Oh my God.
So yeah, we were all week long stressing about it. We did the show. Saturday went off without a hitch. Sunday, we wrapped things pretty early because, it started to not just snow and ice, but it was bad. So some of us, stayed overnight. We made it back on Monday. Some of them who were going further south, which sounds weird, but there, I guess it was warm enough that it was all ice. Most of them stayed a few extra days at the hotel, and the hotel's connected to the convention center, so like you don't really leave. Once you go inside, you're like, So I think some of them got a little cabin fever, but
God, I can only imagine.
And with potential winter weather this weekend, it's not out of a lot of cold coming next week. It's not out of the question. You get a little bit of moisture coming through.
Oof, you guys were like this close to resorting to cannibalism. So hopefully, knock on wood, we don't get to that point.
They have a breakfast, and you can order food at the hotel.
Only run so long, man.
They have drinks as well. 2 free drinks per person staying at the hotel until like 7 p.m. So make sure you run over there and get your free drink.
At least I'll be intoxicated if
That's
I'm
right.
There.
You'll get warm. You go out there and take your shirt off, get into a fight in the parking lot.
There it is. Well, not the parking lot, probably the ballroom then.
Yeah, you could probably take it if you want to stay warm. You probably could just go out in the parking lot.
Question number 1: you think you could take me in a fight?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Was there more? You said 1. I was expecting.
Well, this is the end of the interview.
Yeah. Question number 2. Are you going to? Can I get away?
Should I be worried?
Yeah. Anything else before we get out of here?
I don't think so. I just think I am very excited, and I know I'm saying this ad nauseum, that we are still here. We are starting some new things with not just the show, but just kind of the franchise really in general. And the fact that I get to do all of it with you, Joey Mills.
That's right. It's good to be back. It's going to take a little bit of time getting our legs back underneath us, but we're back. We're adding new things, so that will keep us off balance as well, but it's all in a good, positive way. So, yeah, a lot of growth happening over the next year. Check that out. We will be back next week for another brand new episode of the Pop Goes Culture Podcast. I don't know what we'll be trying then. We're trying the video today. I'm waving at the camera. I don't know if it's going to work. If so, awesome. You'll be able to watch us on YouTube. Yeah. If not, it didn't work. And you'll know that it didn't, and we'll try again next week.
I better say, if it doesn't work, silent film is what I'm feeling next.
Exactly. Ooh, yeah. We could do the little cards that pop up, with the, Zack said. He loved Morbius. Yeah. So until next time, until next week, be safe, be healthy, be happy, stick to your resolutions. We are out of here, man. You got anything else before we go?
Nope.
Good.
Great seeing you guys. Great seeing you. Great seeing you guys. We'll see you next week.
You can't see those guys.
Oh, dang it.
They can see you.
I can imagine them.
Yes.
Like, oh my goodness. Do you see that guy right over there?
Do you imagine your audience naked when you're doing the Q&As?
No. I imagine myself naked.
At the Q&As?
Yeah.
During the cons? Do you ever imagine the celebrities naked during the Q&As?
I try not to. They frown on that.
You try not to.
But sometimes, man.
We'll save it for next week's episode. All right, guys. Have a good one. We'll talk to you guys later. See ya.